What's up, everybody? Welcome to ProducerHax, a game dev podcast. We're talking about games and the games industry. It is Monday, August 15th, 9 o'clock, our new start time.
Yep.
Mountain Standard. So you can always expect it on that time, hopefully. But that'll probably change next week. So
I always get it wrong if it's Mountain Standard or Mountain Daylight. I'm pretty sure I've got it
I just
wrong
go
now.
MST because that sounds cool.
Sounds good.
My name's Blair, producer at BioWare. With me as always.
Billy, producer at BioWare.
If you didn't have a baby, you would be actually at work.
We'll see.
Right?
We'll see. When I get back in a couple weeks, we'll see if I'm still employed.
You just be like, sorry guys.
Sorry, I just came to pick up my shirts. Yeah. I'll be out here. Pick up maybe a couple copies of Madden or something.
So it's been so long since you've been in the office.
I know. I think I'll get lost on the way in. So I heard Jeff sits beside me now. So yeah, it's Mountain Daylight. That's what I thought. I'm pretty sure it's MDT.
You know what? I don't care.
That sounds like some sort of crazy doctor.
Mountain Standard. That's what I do.
That's like an hour.
I'm gonna drink my very dark.
If you say Mountain Standard, then we were correct, I think. Right? If Mountain Standard, that would be 9 o'clock our time. Mountain Dew time. Done. There you go.
Mountain Dew time.
It's Mountain Dew time. Talking about Mountain Dew, baby.
Talking about Mountain Dew, baby. That's still the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. Shaun White.
Shaun White just crushing it. Okay. I'm talking about Mountain Dew, baby. It was so quick. It was so witty.
There was no pause.
No
pause at all.
And he promoted like his company, or not his, but his sponsor, and it was it was perfect.
Like, wow.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about No Man's Sky, the launch, gamer expectations versus what's been hyped up, where'd the hype come from, also the reality of game development versus what you tweet randomly at developers.
Yes.
So stuff like that's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I guess first though, as usual, what you've been playing this week, Billy?
I've been playing a lot of Destiny. I know it's a shock to everybody. I totally wanted to surprise everybody this week and just let everybody know that I've been playing a lot of Destiny this week. We left you behind.
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, but
it's just not the most fun game in the world for me.
Friday evening, Bastion, one of the design leads that I work with pretty closely when I actually show up to work, he just pinged me one day. He's like, "Hey, dude, like, you
won't stop talking about Destiny.
You speak so fondly of this game all the time, nonstop. You play it on your lunch hours." He sees me, like, when he walks into the office at lunch, after his lunch hour, I'm sitting there with a Coke Zero playing Destiny. So he just pinged me and said, like, "Do you mind, like, showing me the ropes?" And I was like, "No, man, I love being a tour guide." So I just said, "Cool." And then I technically was either going to have to make a choice of, like, I either delete one of my kits, which I'm fine with. You know, it's kind of what we did to either bring you on board too, or I'd have to take the one that we brought up with you. And I was like, I don't really want to take that one forward if I don't have to. So we were trying to see if we could get you and Bastion. Timing and schedules, just as they always are, didn't play nice. But I played that. We did a fair bit of that. And then the other night we just convinced Slifram, one of the awesome streamers I like to watch a lot of. I know you watch. She's part of the family. Yeah, Destiny streamer, part of the family. Twaz we hadn't played games very much lately. We usually do play games almost every other night, if not more. So we just said, well, we should get the boys together because we haven't done that in a few nights. And the way this works is that if I want to play at the time I can play, because there's only certain times in the day I can play. Unfortunately, it's just the reality of the schedule. Very thankful, I guess, that guys like Captain Twaz and Slifram are willing to bend their schedules. Both dads as well. Similar situation to me. A little bit different because mine's like brand new born, certain rules that go with that. But they both set their alarms for 3 a.m. in the morning, their time.
No way.
So that we could play at 9 p.m.
They're 8 hours ahead, right?
8 hours ahead, or 7 or 8 hours ahead, depending, I think. And so they lined up and we played Destiny, and we originally were like, well, we'll just do strikes or something like that. But then some of Slifram's mods and everything were there too, so we're like, cool, let's go at this. And we did the 2 first raids for Destiny. So we did Crota's End. It took us like 18 minutes to beat it. It was stupid fast. It was so crazy. The first time I ever beat that, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours to beat it. It's
no idea what you're talking about.
And then we did, that's technically the second raid, although a lot of people
tell me, like,
this
super fast. I'm like, sure, it could be. It could be really slow. I don't know.
We're the new Usain Bolts for Destiny. And then we went back and did the first raid, which was Vaulted Glass. And then we did something that's become more and more popularized, especially with the new mode in Destiny where you could turn off the HUD, where we played hide and go seek. Now, I call it hide and go seek. We discussed this a lot on my stream, where it's like I always knew it as hide and seek. Everybody in the UK was like, "Isn't it just hide and seek?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's something about in
No,
the
it's
US."
hide and go seek.
The
It's
US,
go. The go's there.
You
don't have the go?
we didn't have go in
Oh, the
Manitoba.
go's there.
I think Alberta is just further exercising that we're mini Texas problem. But like
I don't know if
in
mini
the US,
Texas is a problem though.
maybe not. I don't know.
Steaks and oil and
Steaks
I don't
and oil,
know.
yeah.
Tex-Mex? Oh, we don't have that though.
Oh yeah, we don't. That's what I mean. We don't even get the proper
Steaks
Tex-Mex.
and oil.
We get,
Sure,
like, yeah.
I don't know.
So, but anyway, yeah, we played that. It was a lot of fun. There's a bit of cheating involved. It was super funny, and we played that. And then Destiny. The rest of the week. Tomorrow will be a lot of fun because tomorrow's Destiny reveal. I think they're gonna show some really cool stuff from Gamescom. So that's what I'm hyped for. I'm gonna do a full day stream. So.
Ooh.
How about you?
Have you announced that other thing? That's not been announced yet.
Yeah, sorry. I have talked about it a little bit. I'm part of the roster. So the thing Blair is referred to is Professor Broman, who I think most people in the Destiny community would know. He is in charge of setting up the St. Jude's charity stream. It's 7 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days for the week leading up to the Destiny Community Con. So I'm traveling to that Thursday, a week from Thursday next week, I guess. So the 25th, I think I'm traveling. I'm bad at math, so I just realized it the other day. I was telling people, like, oh yeah, I'm like gonna do the stream, and then 24 hours later I'm flying. It's actually I'm flying 48 hours later, because it's technically I fly in the morning the day after, and I stream the morning the day after. So I stream from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Wednesday the 24th, but that's Eastern time, so it's technically my Tuesday night the way I stream. And then I fly on Thursday night. So yeah, it's weird, but that's kind of what we're up to. So
just lost a whole day.
I know.
This time weird. Off, you're just like you're living in a wonderland. You're like, what's a weekend?
I don't understand the concept of weekends anymore. Like today felt like Sunday, and yesterday felt like Thursday. It was so weird. Like the days don't even go in the right order anymore. It's like someone hit really bad iTunes like shuffle in my life. Fuck it.
Your life is a bad iTunes shuffle?
It's just weird.
That's so really weird. Sad.
Yeah, so deep.
But hey, every now and then you get a deep cut of a band you like.
There you go. Yeah, fuck yeah, man. That's good stuff.
Sweet, good stuff.
Yeah, so.
All right. Yeah.
A little Enter Sandman or something, just randomly.
I like Enter Sandman.
Yeah.
Anyways, my turn.
Yeah, your turn now. Did you cut your own turn off?
I know. Well, we're hyping up the charity. Come on.
Yeah.
What am I?
Let me just do this while you talk. Okay, keep going.
No respect for Blarg Shelton.
No.
What was I playing? So I'm over Overwatch.
Man, that was fast. The honeymoon's over.
That's just it's turned into competitive League of Legends. So there's two problems with that. One, Ragers, but two, my personality doesn't lend itself well to that kind of compulsion loop.
You mean I do what I want?
Problem. No, the like addictive, like I can't stop playing until I win. That's like
that's
why I don't gamble.
Yeah, yes.
So I don't gamble at all. Because I'll be like, oh, just one more time, and then I'll lose the house or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, honey, just come over here. Just come over here. This man wants to talk to you.
Yeah, this man wants to talk to you. So I want to get back to the single player streaming because I enjoy it so much. So we jumped into Dragon Age Origins.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. So I've never
small indie title, right?
I've never beat it.
No one's yeah.
I've never even got like remotely far into it either. So we just picked up Morgan the other day. Killed an ogre. Pretty much where we're at. So chat picked a Dalish elf rogue. We're gonna use the bow. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Cool.
So we're gonna rock that, and then had music Wednesday, and then I was watching Lyric on Sunday. He does sub Sundays and just burns through games like every minute or whatever. He was playing 60 Seconds, and I'm like, this looks super
that
cute.
One looks really cool.
Post-apocalyptic survival. You have 60 seconds to grab everything in your house
and get the fuck out.
And then jump into a bomb shelter, and then it turns into like a note page. And it just tells you what happened that day, and it flips to the next day. So it's like really cool. I don't know. So I played it once just to get the basic handle of it, and I'll probably throw it up on stream. I reinstalled Super Meat Boy because I haven't played that in like 2 years.
That's a goodie. Yeah, got on my Vita now.
Haven't finished it yet.
Nice.
But it kept all my saves. So I only have. I'm on the last stage right now. At least for the
PC,
the main game. Yeah, PC.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just a fantastic
controller,
game.
right? You're using
yeah.
controller. Please, I know we've talked about this before, but yeah, you play that game with a mouse and keyboard,
And
you
you're gonna hate life.
Yeah.
So that's been going really, really good. So I want to play those 2 indie games on a night that I'm not doing like the Tuesday, Friday big single player Dragon Age stream.
Cool.
So we're just gonna hit that pretty hard, and then
So late night Monday stream we're talking about here. That's crazy.
maybe.
That's crazy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I see how tired I
I
am.
always say that. I'm
Working
like,
out on Mondays.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm gonna stream right after this show on Mondays, and then I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm gonna go like play in Unity and watch something on Netflix.
Yeah, Mondays suck. So that's it. So I guess nothing else going on there, Billy.
Nah.
Let's talk about No Man's Sky. I don't even know how do you want to even start this conversation.
I hate everything about this game because it's not the thing that they said it was, but they never actually said it. But I knew they meant it, and I fucking hate it.
They never said it was anything.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know.
Here was we talked about this.
They literally said nothing about the game. Like,
we talked about
here's
it
a
before
trailer,
launch, and it was like, "Are you picking it up?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to pick it up." And I'm like, "I'm absolutely not picking it up because I watched all the." See, here's what's frustrating. I watched the trailers and I watched the interviews.
Yeah.
And I was just like, every time it popped up, I'd send it to somebody and I'd just be like, "Fuck, what are you doing in this game? Like this looks like the most boring thing in my life."
My message, yeah.
So, and I was like, well, I know for a fact it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not buying it. Like, and the fact that it's like it was $66 or whatever on Steam, $68. I was like, get out of here for what it is. And so what it is and what it turned out to be was what I said last week. It's an indie game that accidentally marketed as a AAA title.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I want to say it got marketed that way. Because I've seen a lot of people say that, oh, well, it was hyped as a first-party title. I'm like, no, it was always mentioned that it's a second-party title. For those who don't maybe know the distinction, first-party is an internal studio owned by that publisher. And it's not like BioWare where we're owned by EA. It's more of a purely from the console publisher, for Sony, Microsoft, or I guess you could say Steam, maybe. I don't know, but those are the 2 biggies, right? Nintendo obviously is one too.
Yep.
And so Sony does not own Hello Games. They've just simply put out a contract to say this is exclusive to us. No different than what happened with, say, Dead Rising with the Xbox system, which now the exclusivity has ended, and they're going to
timed exclusivity. Another thing that's for another day.
Tomb Raiders and everything done that recently. So they did all that, and to me, they didn't market it as AAA, but they certainly didn't market it as indie niche, because indie.
Maybe indie is the wrong word, but it is kind of indie. But indie or niche, right? Like the gameplay is very
specific for a very specific crowd.
Yeah.
I think the difference too for me is that AAA, when you say AAA and when it's marketed as AAA, like it's big blockbuster trailers and everything, like they didn't really have trailers. They had showings of trailers, I guess.
They had an E3 trailer.
At E3 2 years in a row.
And then they had a lot of
3 years in a row, I guess.
They tried to do the Todd Howard. I'm going up on stage and I'm going to play for 30 minutes and I'm going to show you everything in our game. So they did that a couple times. Like they were on the Colbert Report.
Yeah, that's true. They did their media circuit at one point. Yeah.
That probably wasn't cheap, right? Like so there was a lot of money behind this kind of stuff.
You usually pay a couple million for that. Like that's not cheap.
Bananas. And he played it and it's like it looks like there's a lot of stuff to do. And I even watching, I was just like,
no,
is there?
No,
there isn't. Anyway, so not to bash the game because for what it is. So here's where we're getting at. For what it is, it's a really great game. It's just not what anybody thought it was. It's not what a lot of people wanted it to be.
I think that's the thing is maybe some people. I saw a lot of people tweet at me today. Actually, one guy got really, really belligerent about it. I was just like, okay, delete your account, sir. But it was the funny thing for me was just like I played it. It's exactly what I thought it was, and that's good and bad. One is that I wanted it to be multiplayer based on some of the stuff they kind of hinted at in the trailers. It looked like it might have been multiplayer. They showed instances where it looked like other ships were alongside you. They made mentions of like you discover things that your friends have discovered over time, but they also hinted that the universe is so fucking huge that the chances of you bumping into your friend is like nigh.
Here's
like,
the
it's
thing.
Very little,
so they
right?
didn't say it They maybe should have said it was multiplayer, but maybe that was just a tech problem they couldn't handle at the time or whatever, and it was their goal in the eventual end. But that gets to the marketing thing of like, well, don't say it yet, but you'll get burned. Like, there's no matter what. If this is why I'm going on tangent here. This is why when we as developers get asked questions, oh, does your game have thing? We're just like, not talking about it.
Yeah, because
about
it does no one any
and
service.
People always ask, like, why aren't game developers more transparent? Why can't I know what's going on with game development year one? It's like, because what's year one is so unbelievably different than what you ship in year 3, 4, whatever it is. You would get this expectation of like, well, you told me it was going to have 64-player multiplayer battle arenas, and it's like, but you shipped Super Meat Boy, and it's like, because we started that, and we're like, fuck that, let's make this.
So much work, exactly. And I was gonna say that actually, I was thinking about this a lot earlier today when I was reading some of these tweets by people that were very clearly angry about something. Some of the people I checked, it looked like they didn't even own the game. They were just jumping on the internet rage bandwagon because that's what the internet does these days.
It's like what was the Call of Duty trailer? It's like, let's just make it the most downvoted thing in history.
Like, just because that's what the internet does now. But
trolls.
But the funny thing I thought was that I was immediately thinking about, like, how do we make games and why do they end up in this situation? And let's just say, because I guess they found someone has gone through and kind of trolled through the database of like what the game is and various assets, and he said, I'm on a mission to find the multiplayer branch that's clearly in there somewhere. I just gotta find it. And instead he found like Half-Life 2 logos and weird other shit and like a potential avatar for your player character, whatever, right? But I was like, you know what, you know how you get to this problem is that every game team I've ever worked on ships between 55 and 85% of what they hope to. Never hits 100.
Absolutely.
Because if you think about it, like, that's generally the velocity of most teams, right? Or we aim for X and we hit between 55 and 85% of that.
Yeah, and it's just
like
making
every month, right?
And that's the producer, creative director, the senior EP's jobs to decide what is the 65% that's shipping to make this game a 90 or 95 or an awesome killer game or whatever, right? Because they got to make decisions. Be like, okay, halfway through, we're cutting this pillar, and it's like, whatever, your combat system. It's like, because no, we're seeing the vision, and it's like this, blah, 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 blah.
We're going to double down on this area here, which means we're going to reduce a little bit over here, to
so
save some
it's
space,
a balancing act as you go in game development, and it's constantly being shot called by the EPs and the creative directors, and they constantly have to make decisions based on true data. It's a tough job, but it's how you get games like Naughty Dog games or BioWare games, but it's also how you get, sometimes you make mistakes and you end up with 20% games, where don't want to name names or anything. I don't even know any 20% games. But to the multiplayer aspect of it, they probably shouldn't have said anything, but anybody that went into No Man's Sky thinking it was a multiplayer game, I'm sorry, you're an idiot.
Yes,
because they said 1,000 times.
Literally said
the chance of you
times.
running into somebody is like 0.01%.
Yeah,
maybe you'll run into a planet where they've named something.
And
that'll
be
be
like,
cool.
oh, you ran into planet Butt Touch. Gotcha. So that's my planet.
Don't come to me or don't come to Reddit or whatever and start laying in, being like, this multiplayer game is. It's like, no. This wasn't going to be like Battlefield 1, which is like 64-player kill each other. Like, what the fuck were you expecting?
Yeah, and even it's not Destiny, right? There's definitely assets that are like their whole UI system is very inspired by Destiny. That's very apparent.
I'm getting wrapped up, Billy.
Yeah, but I'm blown away by. It made me realize how important a podcast like this is going to be over time, whether it's ours or another one. The level of
the things that Rami does and the articles he posts.
Actually, I retweeted a Gamasutra article today where he was being interviewed about how he did broadcast a fair bit of Nuclear Throne's development. I actually thought back, like, I remember watching a few of those, and then that's why, like, a while ago, it was so weird that it just dawned on me out of nowhere. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot Rami made Nuclear Throne, because that's how I knew about him from the first part, right? So I just didn't put two and two together, but yeah, I'm just absolutely blown away by some of the reaction where people are claiming they did not know this or they expected something different.
That they didn't deliver on what was promised. And
I was like, I've scoured the internet.
Nothing was
promised. Went back and looked at all the different trailers. In fact, every time I think Sean Murray was interviewed, like, is it multiplayer? And he's like he didn't want to say no outright, but he said it as closely as possible in saying, like, there's online features that would allow and this is why I think he said this. So when you classify your game to Sony, Microsoft, whoever, you have to state what features are in your game.
Yeah.
Stating that it is not multiplayer would mean that he technically cannot put the function that someone can alter content in your game.
Yeah, there's
a legal problem there if he goes, it is not multiplayer, but then little Timmy reaches the far ends of the universe and finds Planet Butt Touch, which I named Planet Butt Touch because I'm dumb, right? But then
the game gets pulled off
the shelves because it's like, you said it was not multiplayer, which means there's no way anyone else in the world
can interact with
this game, and that's the problem. They have to disclose that. Like, so he couldn't say it's not multiplayer outright in that sense, but he also said the chances of you meeting someone are so small that it's like borderline impossible.
Right,
so.
And you got to remember this is a team of roughly
12?
20.
12? I think they said 12 people.
12 people
for 5 years.
Like what was the backlash of this game's really shallow? It's like,
holy fuck.
It's no, because here's it. You have a glass jar full of sand, and you can pour it into different cups, and each cup is labeled a feature. When one rises, the other one goes down because you only have a finite amount of sand being time or whatever you want to, money or people, or however you want to break it down. But it's you can't go ultra wide and also ultra deep. And that's just logic, and I find it. We do have dev lenses when we look at stuff, so it's like we do know when we see a trailer. It's like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing. They're not showing X because they don't have it. Not like I'm not letting my imagination get crazy about it. But you could the things that are deep in that game though. Yeah, it's like you point a gun at a rock and you zap it until it gives you shit. But then your crafting system, from what I was looking at, I'm not the biggest crafting kind of guy. I was like, oh, that looks really complicated. And I'm watching streams of people, and I'm like, Jesus, they're making different guns, and it's got the Destiny kind of layout. And I'm just like,
the cursor movement, everything.
This is just way too much for me. I don't want to go around harvesting all the different materials, but to somebody who finds that really interesting, it's probably like, it's like people playing DAI. It's like, go collect 1,000 elf root. I'm like, no. Somebody's like, just, yes, every
that's
fucking
my
elf
thing.
root.
I will pick this planet clean, kind of thing, right?
No, so I find it unbelievably heartbreaking. How people treated them and the review numbers. Because if this was not a Sony-backed game, and if they weren't on Colbert and they weren't getting like TV commercial time, it would have been a fucking 95. It would have been lauded as like the most unbelievable tech achievement for a team of 12.
It would have been. Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been.
It would have been
immediately been labeled as like potential game of the year.
Easily.
It would have been right up there. Like, it would take massive mountains to move it out of game of the year position. If it had gone purely as we're just the little engine that could. I think the more Sony hyped it, unfortunately, the more people saw it, the more I don't want to say uneducated, but the more oblivious. Maybe that's not even much better, but just like the people who don't research the products they buy, just simply people who see the commercial and go, I must have this. I'm not going to look into it whatsoever about what it is.
Could you imagine buying a car like that?
No, and that's why I got mad at the guy who was tweeting me today. He ripped into me. He said, maybe you forgot the role of the press. And I was like, because I made a comment about
they don't buy it on day one.
Yeah, Polygon wrote a story today about which I just immediately was like, oh my god, they're gonna jump on this bandwagon too. Here's one story about like how the game doesn't match the expectations in a single tweet, and it was ultimately like, it was clickbait title. Really, the start of the article is just like the usual shit on the developer for not delivering what they promised, and then finally at the very end, the journalist who I follow on Twitter, and I generally have liked his work in the past, but this was going too far in my opinion. And then at the very end, he kind of goes, but to be honest, this is kind of the thing I like the most. And it was that Jurassic Park video. I don't know if you've seen that one, where it's the like, here's the amazing thing we were showing at 2014. It looked great. That's what everybody got sold on right away. And that was actually the first video that I was like, and what's the gameplay? That was literally the comment I made to every person on Twitter that day. And I didn't drink the Kool-Aid that day when I saw it for the first time. No,
I never drank the Kool-Aid, and I kept questioning why everybody was. And I'm like, am I the only one that sees this game for what it is.
Yeah.
Beautiful art style.
Yeah.
Really cool mystery.
Yeah.
Infinite worlds
Yeah.
with probably not a lot to do on it.
Yep.
I don't think there's going to be a story, like, these kind of things.
Yep.
And some people took that to be like, this is the next, I don't even know what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And so just to finish up quickly with what I ran into, so I made a comment and said, like, oh, because the story was like, and was it Hello Games forgot to put the derpy animals in their trailer. And so I replied back, but I didn't reply because I didn't want to draw more attention to this story that I thought was just stupid and clickbaity. I just said, journalist forgets the purpose of a trailer and what procedural content actually would mean.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy fuck, like, do I even have to explain this to you? You're a fucking journalist, you should know better.
You should have some insight into
like
how game development goes.
Some level of intelligence,
but
right?
That's what it doesn't.
But it didn't. And so this guy responds back to me and goes, oh, maybe you forgot the role, or you deleted that tweet pretty quickly. And I realized, because about a minute after I tweeted, I'm like, I don't even want to give attention to this story. Like, even just like calling out how stupid it is, I don't even want to give it that. So I pulled my tweet real quick. I don't do that often, but every once in a while I'll just be like, fine, whatever. I don't want, now that I've got the anger up quickly, I don't want it to actually surface and let people fester on the thing I'm angry about, right? So I deleted the tweet. The guy calls me out on it. He goes, yeah, that lasted a minute. And I was like, yeah, I literally replied back and said, I don't want to draw more attention to a stupid article. Like, the article doesn't deserve the clicks it got. I'm mad that I baited myself into clicking it. It's stupid. It shouldn't get attention. And so then he goes, oh, I thought you were actually just embarrassed by how much you don't understand the role of the press. And I was like,
say what? Job to know that. Yes.
I was like, that okay, how wrong can one person be? But whatever. And then he went on about like a thing that wasn't even the point I was making. He's like, yeah, eventually when I kind of just reamed him out and said, like, enough's enough, buddy, like, we're done here. He goes, look, the press's role is not to parrot what the game developer said. I'm like, I was just like, so you're just one of those internet people who reads something and repeats it over and over again without actually understanding the words you're saying.
You're a Reddit user and never actually clicks the article.
Just reads the title. Just reads the clickbaity title and rages based on that.
Yep.
And I was like, holy fuck. Like but that's been the internet experience I've had with No Man's Sky, right?
It's like, always gonna be like that.
I think the one thing though, if there's one positive about it, is that the group that's playing it on Twitch is incredibly passionate and positive.
Because there is people that love this type of game.
It is such a good game. I won't lie. Like, the first night I played it, I had a rough go. It didn't have lefty controls, which I'm a lefty, so I immediately was getting motion sick. Like, I was like looking at my feet, I was looking at the sky, I was moving backwards, I was dying. I had people kind of like borderline backseat gaming in the stream, like, go do this. I'm like, that's not even the purpose of the game. Like, it's not about doing that. It's about going there, and I have to get back to my ship, but I can't get back to my ship until I replenish my health because I landed on a poisonous planet. I landed on a cold planet, so I was constantly dying just being on the planet and trying to find resources to fix my suit.
Son.
Yeah, it was just brutal, right? And this has been the problem. I actually saw this on Sifted, another channel I like to watch. From former G4 and Game Trailers guys, where the two editors of the show were like, one was like, I fucking love this game, and the other was like, I fucking hate it. And it was all because one had landed on a really pretty solid planet that was really good, no real harsh effects on the player at all. Like, it dropped like 1% of health every like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. The other person had what I had, which is like every 3 minutes you're like right on the brink of death. And I was like, oh god, like, make it stop.
It's also, you know what, here's a crazy concept.
Yeah.
Let's throw this out there for everybody listening.
Okay, I'm listening.
You don't have to like everything.
Yes, that's exactly the point.
And it's just like, it's totally okay to not dig whatever.
I left
and then just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. It's the easiest thing in the world to be a good person, right? It literally takes no effort, because being an asshole takes a bit of effort. You actually have to say something stupid, right? But no, I left the stream on whatever I guess is the Monday night, kind of like thinking to myself, okay, it is exactly what I thought it was. I was lucky Coles was in my chat, and he kind of said, hey, you know what you can do is you can go into the PlayStation you can go to the PlayStation OS settings and change the sticks the way you could in the old 360. I'm like, oh, sweet. So I went and did it. I'm like, what the?
Blew up the chat.
Yeah, exactly, right. But so I went and did that, and then that finally made it a bit better. It made it a little weird because like I can move my character and aim the way I normally would in a shooter, but then it also meant that I had to like move the cursor in menus with the right stick, and then still have to use the square buttons and stuff like that to do things. So I'm like lobster clawing all the time. But after the first night, I was like, okay, I got motion sickness still, and it's one of those things where like once you start to get motion sickness, the only way to stop it is to stop everything, basically, just to become neutral again. So even though I had fixed the camera problems, I was not making it worse, but I also wasn't making it better. I was just plateaued at this, like, I'm going to be this amount of nauseous right now. So I stopped and called it a night. The next morning, I was doing like a full day stream, and I was like, well, I booked the Tuesday to do a full day stream. I'm going to play it. So I played it for the better part of the morning, and I was having a lot more fun with it. All of a sudden, I was playing a lefty. It still had the weird lobster claw with the menus. But I was like, I get it. And the only reason I stopped at that point was that I really wanted to play some Destiny, because I love Destiny. But then I was like, I don't know if it'll be a streaming title. It'll just be a game I play from time to time. It's not my jam. Like, it's not my 100%, like, I got to go finish this kind of thing. Since then, almost every day I've watched other streamers play it and enjoy it and play it for 12 hours, right? 12 hour, like
Man
watching
versus Game,
watching
or the T-Rex.
T-Rex is doing an amazing job. He narrates the whole thing.
They make their own little stories, and that's what that kind of game's all about.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like, I don't think I'm the type of streamer that can be entertaining enough in the voids, right? But you watch someone like T-Rex who's narrating the whole thing. You watch Man vs. Game, who's just got like a great funny personality in general. You watch Gathalion, who's having a blast with it. Cheriona, the same thing. All these guys are having a blast with it. And I went back and played it a little bit the last couple nights, just off stream, just relaxing, just kind of doing a bit of work here, waiting for a video to render, or waiting for some artwork to do some stuff, and like, I'll just play it. I'm watching a movie. I was watching Apex, which is a fun movie here, and then I'm playing on the screen, and I was like, God, this is the perfect, like, just mellow out,
and that's what,
and relax.
So the Hello Games stream, we'll get to some of you guys' questions, because there's a lot of really good ones in there. The Hello Games stream on launch day, I think it was launch day or the day before, where Sean Murray was just like, guys, this is a chill game.
Yes.
Like, this
There's
is
no action, This
is turning off your brain, being enveloped in, like, the vastness of space. Having, like, some kind of metaphysical experience or whatever. But just, like, ridiculously chilling out.
Oh, yeah.
Do not go pound a Red Bull and jump in and No Man's Sky.
And I did that, unfortunately. I did pound a Red Bull, like, literally, like, 20 minutes before I started the game.
You wonder why you had motion sickness.
Well, it was because, I think that was, we were saying, like, we came off of the podcast that night, and I'm like, I'm going to stream right after this, because No Man's Sky is going to go live. I came back after getting everything ready, actually started 17 minutes after it went live, because it did go live at 10 p.m. our time, and I'd pounded a Red Bull, and I was ready to go, and it just, it amplified everything. But the next day, just taking it easy, it was a blast. It was so much fun. And again,
it's pulling me in watching other people, because I'm like, I know there's moments during my day, or like Sarah will be like writing her book or reading or whatever the hell, and I could be like, this is like I would put this on, not like a Netflix show. I could just play No Man's Sky, and she would tune in every now and then and be like, that's pretty, and then go back, or I'd be like, look at this creepy gremlin thing I found. She'd find it like, I find it's like just a very relaxed. If you want to spend a Sunday afternoon,
that's
chilling out. However you chill out. I think it's that type of game.
Way to go, I think I had a couple. I saw Sentinel fights all day, all night. I ran to Sentinels like right away that were hostile.
Watching some people's streams or watching yours, like, there's definitely places for improvement.
Oh yeah,
like any game, any game ships. You can always improve it. Right? But you know, as an experience, I think it's different. And then people who bitched about the PC launch, like, I took the night off and the day off for both the StarCraft 2 launch and the Diablo 3 launch. And both of them shit the bed.
From the best PC developer in the world.
Who knows bandwidth and, like, how many people are going to roll into it, like, who has run WoW for the last 10, 15, whatever the hell years it is now at this point.
12 years now,
They can still have shit launches. And that night, I was upset and like, error 34, whatever it was. I'm like, this is bullshit. I went to bed, and then I woke up, and then it kind of worked, and I was like, oh, all right. It's like I was a little annoyed, but I wasn't going to write Blizzard a letter. I wasn't going to tell them to go die in a fire. I wasn't going to have a class action lawsuit against them, right? Like, it's just these ridiculous things, this mentality of entitlement, where it's just like somebody trips and falls in your restaurant, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm shutting you down, I'm suing the hell out of all you people. It's like, what? No, maybe don't trip, you fucking idiot. What happened to personal responsibility? And that comes with, maybe don't spend $70 on a game you don't know a lot about and wait for the reviews to start dropping.
That was exactly the point I made back to
How
someone today. I'm like, you want to complain about a misunderstanding that you made on your part. This was not, if you go back and look at all of the, I think I saw Twaz mention earlier, Sean Murray said, do not expect a multiplayer experience.
Yep.
And so if you come in and you say, oh, it's going to be all these things and it's not that, or, you know, in the trailer they showed all these things, of course, like, and they're like, oh, you didn't show the derpy animals or whatever that might be. Someone said, like, oh, I didn't see these bugs of, like, you know, quadrupeds walking bipedal. Like, of course they didn't. Like,
I got 1 minute to show you awesome shit in my game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show you sticking, like, hanging out in an inventory screen.
Yeah,
like,
that's actually a big part of why so many game companies in a long time ago in the UK, they started a rule about this, is that they didn't even want to show you the gameplay because the resolution of the gameplay would be, like, back in the day, like 640 by 320, rather than, like, a cinematic that's running in 16 by 9, like, made by Blur. Like, that, you always only ever put your best foot forward. You never show the things you're not proud of.
Even the one we talk about all the time, which is the Todd Howard Fallout Skyrim style.
Mm-hmm.
He does his 45 minutes, hour, whatever presentation that's like, I'm going to break down every mechanic, and I'm going to talk for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm going through inventories, and I'm going through all the boring stuff, but I'm also going through the cool combat.
Yeah.
That's you know, few people watch E3 presentations.
Oh God, yeah.
Or but
we always think it's big, but it's not that big.
It's not. Know what a lot of people watch? Football.
Yep.
You know what plays in football? The Wanderer Fallout ad. That was just him, live cinematic, shooting things randomly like a mole rat or whatever, right? Like it's you watch the trailer to be like, oh, what was that?
Yep.
That looks interesting, and then you go find out what it. I wouldn't go buy a game based on the trailer, but.
Nope, exactly.
I digress.
Yeah, and actually, I was gonna say, like, if you think back, like, to that point,
I feel there's some consumer responsibility.
Yeah, you always are fucking responsible. You made a perfect point of, like, you're gonna go buy a car. Sure, that's a lot more monetary investment than a game. $80 in Canada, $60 in US versus, say, let's call it on the low end, a $3,000 investment for a beater or a used car, or up to like 30 or so for like a new one, right?
Yep.
For like an entry level kind of vehicle, right?
You're gonna walk around. You're gonna kick the tires. You're gonna look it up on better.
Yeah, you're gonna check
Bureau,
to see if it's like a lemon, if it's been reported for, like, if it's been
a bunch of recalls,
broken into or stolen, or
does it have a lien against it?
Yes, exactly, right. Like, am I gonna buy this and turns out it's actually owed back to someone because of like some sort of contract, right? Like, you're gonna do the most amount of research possible, and part of that is going to be because you're like the amount of risk associated with the amount of money you're spending on it. But if you're going to get this fucking livid about spending $80 and being disappointed, then that means you didn't do your research for the value that you've put into it.
Yeah, for how much you complained about how expensive it was.
Yeah.
You didn't put in the proper amount of research to spend that kind of money. For some people, $80 is like nothing. For a lot of people, $80 is a lot of money.
Yeah, $80 can make the difference between hitting rent, making meals, whatever, right? So if you're younger, or if you have a little more limited fund situation or budget situation, then you better, for the love of God, be doing your research. Like, we talked about this a long time ago. Like, how did we like play games? How did we like get into the industry? And I used to say, like, you know, when I was younger, I could afford 3 games a year. Now I could stretch it and pull 4 if I did some crafty trading or whatever, right? Like, if I traded back to the stores where back in the day as a teenager, that was the means of doing it.
Trade with your buddies and stuff,
I have a rule for myself. I never trade games in. I almost exclusively buy digital. I try to buy digital exclusively. Only collector edition situations where I buy physical now. But, like, that's the choice I've made. So
it's the same reason, like,
you do the research.
I almost never ever go day one on a game, except for very, very few cases. Blizzard and probably Bethesda is the 2 that I'll go day one, just because I know what Fallout.
They have a reputation.
I knew what Fallout 4 was going to be.
Yeah.
The moment I saw I was like, oh, it's going to be like Fallout 3, but just more. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, sold.
So I bought it and I preload because I want to play it that night. I'll take the time off work or whatever. But it's the same thing with movies. Like, I'll never go to a movie the opening weekend, not only because of the lines or because like forces me into 3D theater, which I find is like a worse experience for some of the stuff, but it's also like, I want to see what it does on Rotten Tomatoes, because, you know, Suicide Squad, shocking. It wasn't good. Like, I'm not going to see it. I'll see it when it pops up on Netflix. Cool.
Yep.
It's something in my back burner to can't wait for it to be on Netflix or whatever.
I absolutely made those decisions. I think when I My phone says I have to stand up. I'm sorry. Or my watch says I have to stand up. I have to go. I'll see you later.
All right. I got this.
But I think for me,
I'm angry.
Yeah. But for me, yeah, I was in the same boat. Like, I think if you even go back to our E3 special there, where we kind of like did a podcast during E3 as we live reacted to EA. Later that evening, but even as we finished, I think we talked specifically about certain things we expected to see at Sony. And we talked very briefly about No Man's Sky. And we both, I think, at that point said, probably not the game for us.
Nope.
For very specific reasons. But it was also, and I reiterated it during the Sony presentation. I was like, I still don't know what the gameplay is. And I'm still going to laugh at all the crazy hipsters that were like, look at this. It's finally a video game where you don't have to shoot mans in the face. Way to go. Finally, an indie figures out how to do video games. And now those same people are bitching about how it's not what they thought it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, because you didn't do any research. And now I know some people will go, well, they didn't say anything. Like, they showed tons. Like you said, there was like a 30 to 35 minute reveal. They were the IGN first game for a whole month. Game Informer had a huge spread on it, cover story. When Game
Informer does a cover story, they go
huge.
They usually go to the studio.
Yeah.
Get early access to tons of shit. Get to make a lot of videos. Get a lot of inside scoops.
Literally right before you came in the door, I was watching on my iPad. There was another one of the videos from the Destiny Rise of Iron stuff, because Destiny Rise of Iron is the Game Informer game of the month. And
Game
so
awesome.
they do great coverage. And yes, they were filming directly on Bungie's streaming setup. So, like, this is the thing, is like there was plenty of material. Like, you had to almost try not to find the material.
I saw a tweet. I know you're a huge fan of him, and like I love his streams too and stuff. But I saw a tweet and I was just like, this is the disconnect probably between gamers and game development. But Gathalion was saying, what do you think they could have done? Or no, do you think there's any? I don't know word for word, but it's like, do you think there's any handcrafted little moments on any of these planets? And I'm just like, no.
Nope.
No,
I don't think
they said it's a procedurally generated world of random shit.
Yeah,
like there's not a handcrafted moment.
Yeah,
it's the type of game it is, where it's this emergent gameplay where you get. I saw the most hilarious video of it. Was like a tiny little gremlin, but it was like a bunny rabbit, but it had huge fangs, and it just started running. And there was like 4 of them. Just started running up the hills at the person to attack him. I'm just like, that's the moment you want.
Yeah.
When you buy this type of game.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. So for me, when I was saying like, I don't know if this is the game for me to stream, but then I started thinking about more as I watched other people stream, and more as I played a little bit more off stream. What makes most games exciting to watch, I find, is if you're going into a Twitch stream for the game, then you want to see like mastery of gameplay. So for example, in Destiny, it might be watching someone like Triple Wreck just destroy everybody in PvP. If you watch like the solo or the kind of the PvE side, then it's like maybe the world's first raid or whatever, right? Like, the guys got
WoW stuff like that.
If you go into No Man's Sky, what you're probably going to have to settle for, and I think it actually will be a fun thing, I think it's going to be the interesting thing, is like what happened with Gathalion, where he spent like 2 hours looking for a creature, and it hit all the news wires too, right? Because I think it was like Polygon picked up, right? It's super funny because like
he was hunting for the last critter on an
and I remember I was watching that stream and I actually had to duck out, and I was like, oh, I'll have to catch it up after I take the kiddo to the park and everything. And came back, and all of a sudden all these news stories started popping up that he got it, and I was like, oh, he found it. But it's like, he was like right on the brink of giving up hope, and he's telling everybody, he's saying to the one creature he's looking at, he's like, I get it, buddy. It's just not working out. And then all of a sudden he just gets like fucking headbutted by this creature. And he's like, oh my god, it's the thing. And that's the thing, is like, as much as I said, like, I part of me wishes No Man's Sky had multiplayer, because then you could go and discover the universe together with your friends.
Yeah.
The fun is ultimately you go play it and your friends watch you discover. I think that's going to be the appeal. Is like you discover the weird bipedal thing that's walking super derpy, and that ends up being the funny moment for you, right? That's your water cooler moment. So I did see Twaz mention that's not what Goth said, so I might have, I'm not sure if I saw the tweet that you mentioned.
It was to mine. It was something like that. Like, what do you think this game could be if it had handcrafting moments? But I think that was actually a separate tweet too. Like, I think he said something. it needed more time, and what do you think it would be with handcrafted moments all over the planets and stuff? And I'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it'd be fucking amazing. It'd be the most expensive game you could have ever possibly made,
Yep.
right? Like, so
Yep.
it's that kind of thing. I want to jump up into some of the questions. One
Yep.
earlier I saw. So if you go all the way up to Miracle Worker, it might be not high enough. Go.
Apparently, we're being raided.
You're being rated.
I don't know that we are, but I think.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Jump up and get to the questions before we get the right.
Yeah.
Patrick. Yeah, so Patrick says, I'm excited to see what those 12 devs can do with another year and all the money they made. Pretty much. That's kind of the thing. Like, it's. I feel like the game is a awesome base for them to build on now.
Yes. Yeah.
Unbelievable story, unbelievable, more moments in it and stuff like that. But it's like, you got to get something out because somebody has to pay the bills. He also asked, Patrick asked earlier, and I think Torillian asked it as well. Do you think the expectations would have been lowered, or do you think the Metacritic score would have been higher if it was a $30 game, 30 to 40?
I do. I think a while ago.
I think it should have been a $40 game.
Yeah, I said this too. I think
max. I think we said it last week before launch.
Yeah, I think honestly, if they had done $30 and 30 US, say 40 Canadian, your expectation comes down quite a bit as a result. The value proposition changes quite significantly.
Yep.
I suspect that, with the amount of hype and everything that happened, Sony probably convinced them and said, look, like, here's how much money you're going to make back if after 12 years, 5 people 12 years. No, totally wrong. 12 people 5 years.
12 people 5 years.
How much time they've given up, what they've spent, how long have they lived potentially with very little funding to do that.
Yep.
How much of Sean Murray's bank account is depleted,
credit cards
max, like Amex
You've
Black
heard all
Card
the
is
indie
destroyed,
stories,
right? Yeah. And I suspect that as they eventually got to the point where they announced at the E3 2014 and said, look, we're Sony exclusive, I suspect at that point there was some amount of money that was deposited into their accounts to say, look,
to keep them,
you need to keep you moving.
Yep.
and the exclusivity and everything else, right? And whether they were given a lump sum up front to make it exclusive, or if they're given a certain change, like sometimes it's like, instead of Sony taking X percentage like they do for royalties and stuff to launch a game on their title or on their system, sometimes they just say, we'll take less of that, because over a long term that will mean a better income for them.
It's even things they may even have negotiations, because this is what game development, when you work with publishers and stuff, you're always negotiating, like,
yes, what does that deal look like?
I need maybe something like, well, to get the quality up more, we could use 4 more VFX artists,
or
right?
50 QA to really beat the crap out of this, right?
Yeah, stuff like that, right? Like, all those kind of conversations come into when you're talking publishers or consoles or money, angel investors, whatever, right?
Exactly, right.
You have to, that's the whole business side of production, where it's like, I'm pitching a business plan that says I need 5 designers, 5 artists, a QA guy for 3 years, and it's going to cost me $300,000 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and I think as long as they haven't mentioned it specifically, so I'm assuming, and that's always dangerous, but I think given what they have spoken about, what they've said, what they've shown, my understanding is that they didn't say, send us, we're 12 people, make us 30 people. They didn't grow Hello Games.
No.
If anything, what they probably did is they said, okay, like, we need people to show us how to get the best output out of the graphics chip, how to get the best output out of the the PC chip, or the PC CPU. This is something that happens, like, if you look at Naughty Dog's games, they're always like, they feel like they're alien technology ahead of everybody else, right? Because they have access to the Sony engineers to say, what can we do to optimize the GPU to do this, or what can we do to like load balance and everything to hit the CPU or the GPU, right? So I suspect they got a little bit of help with things like that, but just the level of ambition and whatnot they were trying to tackle is already crazy. But going back to like the question of like $30, I think it would have made a world of difference. I think there's a thing to be said too. I've always said this, and it was a big thing of how I was helping the manager of the game store I worked at for a long time turn things around. He came from car sales before he bought the franchise, and he bought out our store at one point, and he said, look, I'm trying to do this, and I have this metric of like, how I try to sell the games. And for anyone who doesn't know, like the retail, what you pay at retail, shave about 10 to 15% off of that, and that's roughly what the cost of what the retailer buys it at,
Yeah, yeah.
and then sells it to you. So there's about 10 to 15% on, say, software, right? That's not a industry secret. You can go to like Walmart or Best Buy or EB Games and find that out in 30 seconds.
Well, anything
right?
at retail, it's got a markup. Like,
Markup,
they
exactly,
have to
right?
keep
Because
lights
that's
on, right?
how you
It's
make
business.
a business, right? But the funny thing is, like, at one point, the manager of the store that we had before him was always trying to say, like, if the game on, say, N64, because that's what we sold a lot of at the time, was N64 and eventually Dreamcast and stuff like that. As we were getting through those systems, an N64 game would cost us as a company like $85, and we'd sell it at 95. Like that, like it was $10, right? But then like the games would start coming down, so like then the cost
Zelda
would be
was
like
$120.
yeah, some of them like they had big ROM chips were crazy, right?
Time, yeah.
So I remember like for example when the games would start coming in and the cost was coming down because we were buying bigger and bigger batches, we get the discount on them, right? So we'd say okay, we want to get 70 copies of WrestleMania 2000, and great game. We knew we were going to sell a ton of it. The cost on it went down to say $70, but the owner still wanted to sell it at 95. I'm like, no, undercut the guy across the street,
Yeah,
and sell it at 85 or 80. And he's like, no, like I can maximize my profit. I'm like, but here's the thing: go in and say if you know you're going to undercut that way, sell lower price, lower than the competition, because this isn't back in the day when you could do that. You could,
yeah.
the MSRP was like just a suggestion. It's literally manufacturer suggested retail price.
Yep.
And so we'd go in at the price and we'd undercut everybody by $5. That's enough to sway a person's decision when you're on limited funds,
in a
right?
mall or something.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we were across the street from the mall, but we said, okay, look, and then I said, okay, but this time if we can get them down to $70 on cost. If we order 70 of them, let's order 150. And he's like, I don't have the credit card space to do it. I'm like, okay, then let's not order this game. Yep. And he's like, well, we need them. I'm like, no, because no one's going to buy them on day one if they're going head to head with this one. And it all just came down to like, getting that price. So over time, we flipped the business to start doing like huge sales. And he said, like, it's so weird. We sell the game at lower profit per title, but I made 4 times what I made on the previous year's game. Like, it's because you're catching people on impulse now. And I think that would have been the world of difference for No Man's Sky. Is like even with all the press, it's gone kind of weird right now. I think you would have had a situation where at $40 more people, $40 Canadian, so $7 American, people are willing to jump in on that, right? But $80, like even when I pre-ordered it a couple nights before it went live. I finally said, I'll bite the bullet. I'll take the hit and see if it is what I think it is, and maybe it isn't what I want, but I'm willing to take the try. Once I played it, I couldn't help but think, and even when I hit the button to hit the spend, I was like, $80, man. It doesn't feel indie anymore.
No,
and I think that's what they fought.
Trillions, like, do you think higher or lower prices then change the expectations of quality? I don't think it changes the expectations of quality. I think it's what we said before with Captain Twaz. Just totally wasn't here for half the podcast, so repeated it. But it's so retailer sets price or game company sets price.
Yep.
So like we think our game is worth $60. Mm-hmm. You don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
If you don't think it's valued at that. If you don't see the value versus cost, like you have to do your reading. We keep coming back to this. Like you got to do your goddamn research.
Yep.
And maybe it's not for you, or maybe wait a week. Like, do you have to play it on day one?
Yeah, and so my little thing about like my little anecdote about how price works there's I guess
just because the quality of like say Super Meat Boy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just even in the feel of how he bounced, the control you have over him, and it was so 15 precise. When it came out on 360.
$15 when it came out, yeah.
And I bought it for like $4 on Steam.
Now you can get it, $4 or $5 usually on a Steam sale.
So $4, it's not. It's like one of the highest quality indie games of all time.
Yep, I would agree with that 100%. No, I was gonna say even I think I Am Setsuna came out recently, which is kind of like the spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger. A lot of people have kind of really latched onto recently, and it's I think it's like $40 Canadian or something like that. So I may pull the trigger on that right away. Twaz, I think you were maybe refreshing, but Twaz did summarize kind of what we were saying before. It's like it is up to the gamer to do the research, determine if like whatever the price is, if it's okay, if they're okay with spending
Yep.
it. And it's okay to not own a game on day one, like you said, right? If you don't feel like you have the information to make the decision and you need for it to come out and then see it live on stream or see reviews or whatever you may need to feel like you've got now the information to make a smart decision, then do that. But do not, like, you're not going to get any pity from anyone, especially not me. If you go into something and you go, well, I saw a commercial and I bought it for $80.
Yep.
And my friend told me it had multiplayer, like,
No.
I look forward to like never having to deal with that person. Like, I'd be worried if that person turned out to be like my plumber, and like, oh my god, like you're going to flood my house because you clearly don't do your
like,
work.
Who do you this when your house floods? Is it this is why every company changed their name to AAA, so they were the first ones in the phone book.
Yep.
So you'd just be like, okay, yeah, plumber for AAA, Bob. Yep, calling him up. Like, that's how that all went down. Like, it's
game the system, right?
It's so frustrating.
Yeah. But...
So maybe not enough about No Man's Sky, but moving a bit more into our other thing I want to talk about, which is the not gamer expectations versus game development, but the well, it would just taken 1 week of coding to get that multiplayer in there. So, and then give it 3 weeks of beta testing with some QA. Like, what 3 QA could handle it? Like, it'll be like $20.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you just do that?
I think you probably saw the same tweet I saw.
Yeah.
And then I retweeted it because Eric Fanga retweeted it.
Yeah.
And he was one of the designers that did a lot of the work. If you love like the objectives and just the overall economy setup and a lot of the almost every one of the abilities for ME3 MP, that was Eric. He did the vast majority of it, and he retweeted it because he saw the tweet this morning. Is like, so this is like that time when we finished ME2, and someone told us we could make ME2 MP with like a few lines of code. That actually initially he told us it was 1 line of code, because all the things are there. And that was the tweet. The person like broke down. He's like, well, it's clear that you have the player position, all these things, like you have all that data. So it's just like, it's like a week's worth of work max for one person, and capitalized one person to make all this stuff happen. I was like, oh my God, like who taught them any of these things?
Here's my thing. To me, it's like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yes.
Like I don't go to Mercedes and say, it's like, well, why didn't you just add more power? Because, like, what would that have taken your engineer like a week? Just bore out the hole a bit more? Yeah. Because carburetors, right?
Seriously, like, the power to weight ratio, like, you could go way higher.
What do you even need to test it? No.
Koenigsegg's doing 1-to-1. Why can't you?
Koenigsegg does it.
Yeah.
Why can't you?
They like, sell for $1 million.
It's just like, I'm not I have no clue what I would be talking about when I say make car faster. I rely on the experts, and then I research. Well, I want the fastest car on the planet. Okay, I'm going to find out what's the fastest car on the planet. Google search.
Yes. Like it's like literally the first step. That's 1 line you write.
Like, what's the thing?
That's 1 line you write. What is the fastest car in the world?
If you're into survival horror games or whatever, you just like literally go. We do this every day when we're trying to find a movie on Netflix, like top horror movies on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah, it's that simple, right? It's
so frustrating.
Yeah. And the friendly fire in Damp, that came up like constantly.
It's just things like Starbucks. People want to echo things they hear in order to sound knowledgeable. I think that's totally true. It's the Reddit reading the title, not the actual article that's linked stuff. It's I just don't understand where people are getting off telling other people how to do their job
when they have never done it before. Done it in their life. Even if you not even read about it, like
even if you have done it before, and you are, say, since we're talking about games, just like say you're a game dev, and you are like, that's why we do this podcast. But it's like we never question why they didn't do something. We try to provide reasons why we think they wouldn't have done something because of cost, time, not their goal, blah 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 blah, right? So even if you're a game dev, I would never go to Naughty Dog and be like, why wouldn't you just, I don't even know if anybody could, if they like knew what went into making games. Like, why don't you just add multiplayer to, the single player campaign of Uncharted 4 or the Last of Us or something? Why can't I play as Ellie? Me and my buddy play couch co-op. It's like, because you don't fucking know what that would take. You have no idea how to, just making the screen a split screen is so much more expensive nowadays than it used to be, because of resolutions and scaling and stuff like this. It's like, even just the how the console to run a split screen nowadays on something like that's super expensive is so taxing. It's hard for us to optimize the one screen.
Look at the one game.
It's not just graphics.
There's been one game, I think, that since its inception has been ubiquitous with split screen multiplayer. Didn't have it this most recent iteration. That was Halo 5.
Yep.
So it just goes to show, like, when you have to take something and render it 4 times, essentially, you then have to lot everything way down. Like, if you ever look at, we did this, we figured out the hard way. I used to have LAN parties at the house. Like, when we worked on Mass Effect 1 and 2, I think Rodich may even remember, we brought everybody into my house, and we said, okay, it's like a team building event. We're going to order pizza, we're going to drink beer, and we're going to play some COD 4. And so we had people in my room, my gaming room, the living room, and we played across, like, wired connections. And we had all played COD 4, and we loved it. We played Halo, and we loved it. But when you actually took those games, the newer ones that were not like the original Halo, and you knew what they looked like, and they were very simple geometry and simple textures. When you took those games and you knew how great they looked on the 360, and you put them into 4-player split screen, and then wired them together, you're like, wow, that looks horrible.
It's
like,
awful.
I remember when we booted up, it was the crash level. I think that was the one that wasn't even playable. When you chose split screen, there were certain levels where, like, you just can't even play this one because it won't load in properly.
And this goes to the whole producer talk kind of stuff we usually do, where it's what's the cost benefit value of this?
Yes.
Like, how many people are going to couch co-op this game? 3? Not spending 2 programmers 3 years of programming time to figure out how to slam this thing into here. Like, no fucking way.
Well, exactly, and the diminishing returns over time too, because I think that's what happened with Halo, and they explained it a little bit. Like, we would have loved to keep this. We know that Halo was born in the forge of the, like, dorm rooms, essentially, right? But at the same time, those things don't exist the same way they used to. When Halo came out in 2001,
when it was on couch co-op, you sat. There wasn't consoles connected to internet.
Yeah, like the Halo came out on a console that had an Ethernet port that didn't get its online service until a full year and a half later.
People need to,
like, learn.
No, it's just like, get your nostalgia glasses off.
Yes. Oh God,
like,
yeah.
fuck.
You go play GoldenEye today, you'll fucking hate yourself.
You know, like,
that is a horrible game to play.
Gonna stop to move, or stop to aim.
Yeah.
Like, I stopped moving so I can aim.
Yeah, you couldn't do the 2 things at once. I was like, fuck.
The times have changed. You got to roll with it. Go back and play as much as I love them. Old Final Fantasies, and I'll play them, and it comes with a certain understanding of, okay, random encounters blow. But I love this game so much. I can put up with it. If you put that game in the hands of a 16-year-old right now that's never played Final Fantasy 3 or 6 or even 7. 8 had random. 9 had random encounters too, I think. Who's been playing
almost never not had it.
I know. Who's been playing COD or Final Fantasy, like 13s, all this kind of shit, World of Warcraft. They'll just be like, they'll
flip the table.
Most annoying thing in the world.
They won't even just, like, bitch about it. They'll flip a table because they're like, what the fuck is this?
There's an unbelievably low number of games that stand the test of time. Very. Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yes. So this is actually
Street Fighter 2.
This is a weird little segue, but and totally not a topic that we had in mind, but recently a lot of people have been tweeting their top 7 games.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I read a lot of them. I had my list. I've got a list. It's actually on my phone. It's like top set of games I love for every single console that's ever come out that I've ever owned. And I had to go back to that list, and I was like, oh man, like, which ones did I actually put if I could only choose 7? That's really hard. Like, talk about first world problems. Choosing which of your favorite games make the top 7. And I had to go look at that list and say, which ones of these stand the test of time? And that's why I put, like, it's like, I put Link to the Past instead of any other Zelda, because to me that one still holds up. 2D graphics actually hold up better than 3D in the past.
It does.
And
it's the animation thing, right?
Yes, exactly. The fidelity and everything.
Go watch Reboot versus or Toy Story against.
Oh yeah, you watch Toy Story 1 and
against
you're like
Bambi or Lion King.
Yep.
They still look beautiful.
I know we watched Jungle Book yesterday. My kiddo was like Baloo, Baloo, and so we put on like she only knew him from like a couple coloring books.
The comic or the new one?
The comic, the old one, yeah.
The new
All
one's gonna
hand-drawn.
look like shit in 10 years.
I know. It's gonna
That
not
hand-drawn one
look
will
good.
look beautiful
Yep.
forever.
It's still like it has like all the charm of like the pencil lines and everything, right? It's or the ink lines. But no, I thought it was funny because I went and chose like Super Mario 64 because even though it's lower fidelity, it was built in such a fidelity
Yeah.
that it ages so well.
The gameplay's so tight.
The gameplay's so incredible. And then I said like here's like say like 5 or 6 that would go beyond that 7. Here's what if you had 12, then it would certainly be Super Mario 3 is like incredible, right? Like Super Mario World actually may be one of the best 2D games ever made.
It's so good.
It still looks so fucking. It's so colorful. It's so pops so good. Chrono Trigger. I wanted to put it on that list too, but the same thing. Like I can't go back. I tried actually booting up the other day. I can't go back. To random encounters the way I used to. So I played it on a flight and I was like, I'm gonna sit down for a little bit and
Final Fantasy 6 is my flight game right now, and it'll be Chrono Trigger after I pass it or whatever. But because it's just like 2 hours. And even 2 hours, I'm just like I'm bored.
Yeah,
I need to break.
It's not what I remember it being, right?
Or whatever, because you put your imagination on so much stuff, and I think that's going all the way back to No Man's Sky. People saw the trailers and they saw the infinite possibility.
Yes,
and it touched this little place in people's heart or mind where it's like I can do anything in this game, and they're like, whoop, 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 we didn't say you could do anything.
Yeah,
said you could go anywhere.
We have a certain set of rules.
There are rules in our universe.
Yeah.
But every planet you go to, or 99.99999 every planet you go to, nobody will ever have been there before.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Because I remember I saw the article or the note from Sean Murray that shipped in the hard copies of the game. Yeah. The collector editions of the game. And for me, it was he even said it. He's like, a lot of people that play Minecraft, and then people immediately latched onto that. So like, it's the new Minecraft. I'm like, no, it's not. It has nothing to do with Minecraft. The only thing it has to do with Minecraft is explorability and discoverability. It has no terraforming whatsoever. But the literal translation is just.
I got a perfect comparison for this. So, somebody dropping in and saying, "This is just like the new Minecraft."
Yes,
is what game companies did.
Yep.
When they were pitching MMOs when WoW came out.
Yes.
And
this is gonna be the new WoW.
This is gonna be the new WoW, and the problem that anybody has going up against Minecraft. Or the problem anybody has going up against WoW, and these aren't the best looking games anymore.
WoW looks
pretty dated.
Yeah,
Minecraft looked awful but that's
it never did.
It was never meant to be.
Yeah.
But they have years of iteration
and investment,
so much that nothing will ever compare to those games at launch to what those games are at the same time.
Yep.
It might compare to it at the same time Minecraft launched. No Man's Sky launched, maybe that was really close to the same, or like an MMO launched when the first year of WoW being out. They were probably all equal, but then WoW went on and kept making awesome shit for the next 6 years, and then you released your MMO. It's like obviously you're gonna get crushed.
Yep, you're always in. You
can't be comparing stuff like that.
You're always in catch up mode.
You have
even if you say we're gonna launch our game to say whatever WoW was at this moment in time. That snapshot, you finally catch up, but the WoW team has moved forward.
Yeah, the WoW team's been going the whole time.
6 months to 9 months later, they're going to show that they are that much further ahead of you, which means then you have the choice as a company to try to catch up to them again and constantly lose that battle, or do your own thing, find your own niche and claim it. And I think that's the thing. I think going back to the points earlier of how could things have gone maybe better or differently for No Man's Sky? I think finding a way for Sony to get involved the way they did and believe in them, awesome. The belief and the push and say we got it, guys. You're doing it. But if the way it did get pushed started to feel like Sony was the big marketing juggernaut behind it, which meant it no longer was seen as indie by most people. Only the people who knew that it was an indie team.
As soon as Sony picked it up and as soon as Sony got sold on the promise of this game, I think Sony also took it too far where they're like, this game's going to change gaming. I think Sony took it and probably thought in their heads this is going to be the next Minecraft. We're going to make so much fucking money off this thing, just like Microsoft did when they just like notched it, but buying them out or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
and that's a classic marketing thing, right?
Yeah,
this
no,
is gonna be the next thing. Right?
I can definitely see that.
This is gonna be the next. This is gonna be next ShamWow.
Sean Murray even said, it's just like he's like, I have no idea how this got so crazy. I just want everybody to. He even said, like, chill out on your expectations. It's a chill game. It's not going to change the world, but I hope it just blows a few people's minds.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's just it.
Yes.
Sony went down the rabbit hole, man.
Sorry, I just thought a good point. I was going to answer. Terrellian asked, do you ever, I'm not sure, but do you even compare your product to other things, more or less risk? Jeff answers it exactly the way I would answer it, and I think Captain Twaz kind of bumped it up too, is the saying, like, I'm always aware of other products. I play as many different types of games as I possibly can to be aware of what's out there.
Yeah.
But the worst thing you can do for yourself is constantly compare yourself to something else.
No, I wouldn't be constantly comparing myself to something else. I think so. Say you wanted,
do yourself a disservice.
You say you wanted to make a Minecraft-like game because you like crafting, terraforming, build little castles or whatever your niche is, or you want to make a first-person shooter game. You should go play the fuck out of every single one of those first-person shooter games. That's in your sphere of, well, it's obviously, why do you want to make one? You obviously already are probably a super fan and have played all those types of games. But then you take it as inspiration and you take it as like a challenge to be like, we're going to be as good as COD. If you're a first-person shooter people, or we're going to look as, if you're a tech company, we're going to look as beautiful as DICE does in their games, right? Like that kind of stuff. But then you do your own art style, you do your own gameplay, you take because why else would you be making games if you just want to copy somebody? You need to find out what you do really well. It's like when I was in bands doing music, it'd be like, yeah, man, I'm like, you go and ask a musician, who are you inspired by? It's like, oh yeah, Led Zeppelin and blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, I can hear a little bit of Led Zeppelin in the drums there or something. But it's a completely different band. But maybe for one album, they're like, let's just do the drums kind of Led Zeppelin style and the room, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, you take the inspiration, you turn it into your own, you go down with your own vision. I think everybody does that for all the games that we make it, unless you're like the fucking phone games who are like Flappy Bird wannabes. Like once Flappy Bird came out, it was something like Babby Bird and Babby Bird.
There are
like,
companies that's how they make their living, right? That's literally copy pasting. The
opposite of what we're talking about art. We're not talking about.
Yeah, make Flappy Bird, but swap the fish from Mario to something else, right? The thing. So the way I would put it on that question, it's a good point, and it does. Those
people are such piranhas on.
Yeah,
now I'm just mad. It's the people who Disney releases Lion King. And they make a movie called The Lion Boy and make it direct to video. And so some kid goes to a fucking video store, not anymore, but back in the day, and was like, "Oh, Mom, that's the one I want. It's the lion thing." And the parent gets it, and the kid's disappointed. Right?
Oh, like, God, like, fuck. Well, and I was gonna say, like on that end, you see, it's a slight variant of this, and I'll get back to the point I want to make. But you go into like the iOS store or the Android store right now, and you're trying to find Clash of Clans, or you're trying to find Clash Royale. And there'll be something called like Royale Clash instead, with the same icon of with Diablo icons, with Diablo icons that are like one-off variants of like, it's a dude that looks just like the Clash Viking but with like red hair instead of yellow, and all these things, like it preys on it, right? It's the GoBots thing I always talk about. Mega blocks. Mega blocks. Where are they? I have a million mega blocks here. I'm gonna promote a bunch of products that I would love if this was Lego. I would love if this was Lego, but it's not. Back in the day, though, Mega Bloks were like the shitty plastic too. The big shitty blocks. Yeah, we got a bag of them over in the other end of the basement, but totally different. But so going back to the thing about like, do you compare yourself? Yes, I think there's two things you do as a game studio that you have to do. So one, to sell your vision. And I was gonna say that was the comment I was gonna make about marketing. Is that in order to get other people excited, especially investors, you have to be able to tell them some analog that they can point to and say, oh, I get it, this is why I should give you money. So you'll say like, when Dragon Age is being built, it'll have open expansive worlds, and you might say something like Skyrim, or it'll like have Baldur's Gate, and it's always and yes, it'll be deep connection to your characters, like Baldur's Gate or something like that, right? Like it sets this vision of like what you're trying to achieve, because people can then go, oh, I remember that, and I remember that, and I remember that. Okay, I get it. I see how. And then you layer on top of that and be like, but what we're going to do differently. But we're going to add. Yes, but the innovation will be X, Y, or Z, or all three of these things, right? And that's important. I think you need that. Like even for me, I say like, okay, if I were to ever go indie, the thing I'd build is this, and this. And people will be like, but I thought you said you don't want to copy anything. I'm like, no, I'm not copying anything. I'm taking inspiration from the things I love, and I see how they all fit together, and I think it's going to be a peanut butter and chocolate kind of moment. But we'll see, right?
Yep.
So there's always that. But once you get into comparing, that like direct comparisons are very dangerous as a game team. I used to do these things when I was in QA especially, but as a producer I do them still. I'll go make a spreadsheet and say, here's our title, and here's the feature set we have, and here's how it stacks up against the other 30 products in the market. And you want to know where you stack up just for the understanding of like, where do you fall in the range of this? Well, these 10, they're more on the exploration side, and these 10, they're more on the action combat side, and these 5 over here, they're more in the pure exploration, and these 5 over here are really story-driven, character-driven kind of games. Okay, so you know that like you line up, like if you draw a giant Venn diagram, you line up over here, roughly, right? Okay, and that's what you kind of want to know, where you fit within the market at like a very, very high level. Like we talk about like the 40,000 foot view, right? It's like if you're looking down at like Google Earth and all you can see is like country lines, you know where you sit relative to that. But that's the extent. Once you go beyond that, you get into a really dangerous territory of like, again, it goes to the more you compare like that, you start copying, and the more you copy, the more it's apparent to a gamer that it's not the original. It is the GoBots problem. You have the thing that is kind of like the thing superficially, but doesn't have the context and all the attached, like all the connective tissue that makes it what it would otherwise be, right? So
yeah, no, it's the voice member just asked, like, I was told not to compare to something that's super popular because marketing will latch onto it and set a bad expectation. And I think that's on the game team.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would compare something to something. Like I would be like, oh, we want to make a story-based game, so I want to do like, it's going to be like The Last of Us because it's post-apocalyptic, blah 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 blah. But then it's the game team's job to educate the marketing arm to be like, this is what our pillars are. This is what we're building. Don't use buzzwords like this because that's too close to Naughty Dog, and we're not actually like that. We don't. You know,
there's triggers, right? Certain words trigger certain reactions, and you have to be careful of what those are. As much as you want to say certain things, you have to understand what the thing you're saying does and what it doesn't do.
But you need to, but you need to educate your marketer to go after the right people. So when you say it's like Dragon Age, it's like, well, we want to grab Skyrim people. Marketing guys like, oh, okay, so, and or like we're looking for Skyrim, we're looking for Game of Thrones because those are really cool, but it's BioWare, so it's all about characters. But those two first things, it's like they start to format in their heads like, okay, so dragons, open world, I'm thinking politics, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of gamer likes those things? Okay, what was so successful about Game of Thrones? What was so successful about Skyrim? And then you're like, okay, and now the game team goes back, the marketer comes back with something like, here's my cool idea or whatever, and game team comes back like, well, cool idea, but we need to retool it because our game actually is about this. And it's like, it's got some Skyrim elements, but it's more about these characters, you know, fighting in Thedas, blah 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 kind of thing. So it's balancing expectations of the marketer and how they help sell you your game, because they got to choose. You wouldn't market Dragon Age to people who play COD.
Probably
That'd
not,
be weird, right?
So we had an instance of that, and it was really bizarre, and it showed right away, right? It was like with some of the YouTube stuff, like one of the YouTubers that got a hold of the game early was a COD professional player, never played any Dragon Age ever, but was part of a program that got it, and all of a sudden was like, it's very clear, this is not their genre, their content, and they were just fumbling all over. Right?
And I think to some of the questions or points being made, it's like, I would never, I don't think we ever would go out and publicly say we're comparing ourselves to anything.
No,
and I think that's silly because we are our own thing. We take inspiration from everything.
It's the thing I was gonna say on a political angle. Different. I wish, and you hear this a lot, like, if politicians took this approach, I wish it would be a much different place. But the idea of like, I think it might have been Jeff who made the point of like, don't talk about your opponent's platform. No. Talk about yours. Say like, why is your game going to be great? Like, don't worry about the other guy.
It's so many people try to create something out of The Witcher and Dragon Age. Of like, oh, these devs must hate each other. Like, they're always competing. They're always going after each other. It's like, no, we're not. You are.
You think you made this drama, but like,
you're posting on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, saying like, The Witcher's so much better because this, but Inquisition's so much better because of this. And it's like, us as devs, we're both like, I'm so excited to play The Witcher.
They coexist, yeah.
Yeah, you can. Hey, here's another.
Here's a weird idea.
You can play both games
and like them both, and there's nothing wrong. Yeah, it's the
or
old...
you could like one and not like the other, and then you could also just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I made this point the other night. It's an old Steve Jobs quote. It happened when he rejoined Apple, and when he said, "Look, the only way I can do this is if I get money. I need money. With no money, I can't save this company." So he came back in. He took over. It was a failed experiment with John Sully, where Steve Jobs was ousted. He comes back 7 years later, and he's like, "Well, I guess you need me," or I think it's 14 years later. "Now you need me to bail you out." "Okay, well, I'll do it, but here's what I'm going to do." And the first thing he did is he went to Microsoft, the supposed mortal enemy of theirs, and said, "Look, you guys have a lot of money. I think we should work together. I need some investment, but we can do this, and it'll be mutually beneficial, right?" Yep. People that buy Macs will be exposed to some of your productivity software, and will have money to keep building things. And he came out on stage and said, "Look, you have to remember that." Years later he said this, but he said, "Look, in order for Apple to succeed does not require Microsoft to fail." That I hope
it's the most
that was
brain dead.
Yeah, I thought that was just
if you think that's
common
what it takes.
sense, and that's how logic worked, and that is how logic works. But most people are like, no, the only way that Sony wins is if Microsoft fails. The only way that Nintendo wins is if Microsoft and Sony fail. The only way if the only people, it's that old Star Wars thing, right? The only people who use absolutes were the evilest people in the galaxy.
It's like it's so silly because it's like, what, it's okay to like whatever you like. It's okay for other people to like what you don't.
Yes. Yeah.
And just leave them the fuck alone.
Blair likes Blark Shelton. I don't really know much about him.
Drinking beer and awesome.
Sounds like a good time.
It's got.
I probably should look into it now.
He wears vests and stole my haircut. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But it's just like, get over yourself. Why are you so invested in other people's, what other people are into?
Yeah.
Why are you so just bring up you could talk about conservative value, but like people who are like, "Oh, gay people shouldn't get married." It's like, how does that affect your life in any way whatsoever?
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. And I was actually saying, the one
get out of here.
I used to love the saying, "Only cis deal in absolutes," which is an absolute in itself.
I know.
It's so brilliant. It's just such a good moment.
Because Yoda's Sith.
Well, but you knew it was actually, wasn't it Obi-Wan who tells that to Anakin? He's like, only. Yeah. I was like, the funny thing is like, if you really look at it, like someone really triggered me at one point in a positive way, but they're like, if you really think about it, weren't the Jedi kind of technically the bigger terrorist organization?
But no,
they went and spreading their own word around everywhere and mind changing people.
Yeah.
And
when we go to cons and stuff, all the devs talk and we all hang out and we all just check out each other's games and we talk about what they're working on, not details, but just like, I'm working on this cool thing, can't wait for you guys to see it. And you're just like, yeah, man, like
GDC,
super excited.
GDC exists for exactly that purpose.
There's a definite healthy competition.
Yeah,
much like music, where a band will come out with something while you're like writing an album, and it just rules, and you're just like, shit.
Yeah.
We need to up our game.
Yeah.
Or it's like another game comes out and you're just like, oh my god, they did this thing so good. We need to ramp up our whatever thingamabob feature to like beat it, right? Like it's just, you're constantly just trying to be better, and it just elevates the industry. It makes everybody better. It makes better games for people. I don't understand fanboying. I don't understand fandom.
No.
In the negative sense. I don't understand being like, in order to, we were talking about off stream stuff, but instead of bringing other people up, you'd rather chop the legs out of somebody else, and I think it's just so negative, and I think you're a bad person if you do that.
Yeah, it's there's that age old saying of a rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
Meaning that if something positive is happening at a community level, then everyone as long as you're part of that positive group, you should go up with everybody else, right?
Seattle in the 90s.
Yep. No, exactly. The grunge scene just exploded because everybody just kind of went. Woo!
LA in the 80s, right? They were all buddies. They all rocked together. They all support each other. They all went to each other's shows.
Soundgarden and Pearl Jam used to be Temple of the Dog. Yeah. They were technically the same band.
Yeah. So it's just.
And then when Soundgarden was trying to tour for the ages. They and Pearl Jam, sorry, with Pearl Jam was touring, they borrowed Matt Cameron. Like, dude, we need a drummer. Our drummer's gone. Like,
their drummer quit,
Yeah.
and Matt Cameron had to learn 68 songs in a week.
like yeah, because they were going on tour
Yep.
right away. He's like, I just can't tour anymore. I'm done. And Matt Cameron's like, fuck it, I'm in, because Soundgarden's kind of like taking a hiatus right now. So
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucking crazy, man. Or like Dave Grohl, who like just fills in on drums for like every band ever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, oh, you know,
I could do with a little less Dave Grohl right now.
nah, you shut your mouth. Fat Dave Grohl loves Dave Grohl.
He's just everywhere.
He's everywhere.
So
He's so
just
good.
Get him out of my life.
But
I love Dave Grohl. I'm kidding.
yes, he's so good. He's the closest thing to a rock god that I know of. So
He's just such a positive
yeah, he's
soul.
all his sayings of like, you know, like I love all the. I usually hate these quote things that show up on like Facebook and all that shit. Like the image of like and this long ass quote where he says like, you know, you don't need just whatever American Idol. You need to go to a garage, buy a shitty guitar and a shitty set of drums, and just beat the shit out of it in your garage until you're good.
American Idol produces. They don't produce musicians. They produce robots.
Pop stars, yeah.
It's whatever.
Yeah, they don't play instruments. They don't
yeah.
sing live most of the time.
I guess maybe we'll end on Torlian's last question,
Yeah.
because I think we're way over time. I don't think it'd be impossible for a 12-man team to do a podcast like this or Dragons and Donuts, but I don't think it would require it takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of people that go into, at least when we did Dragons and Donuts, that went into that. With this podcast, our hope is more it educates people who are ready to jump on a forum and talk shit about something they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't really have advice for Hello Games to deal with the feedback. All I really, really hope is that they, not morally, their morale, they keep it really positive because they accomplish something truly amazing. Just the tech alone is like mind-boggling. The no load screens, the seamlessness, the vastness, and then just put their heads down. We'll take a long deserved break, go to beaches and relax, and then put their heads down and just make it even better, because I think they have an unbelievable platform to build upon. But yeah, no, doing podcasts, talking about this kind of stuff, it requires a certain type of personality. And if you don't have it, I wouldn't recommend it. It's the same thing as being on Twitter. Like, if you can't take somebody shitting on you, don't be on Twitter.
As I just did this morning.
No,
block it.
That's the thing, and you just block it. Like, but some people can't deal with that.
No, exactly.
That side of
they
it.
go into a whole tirade,
and
I was like, okay,
them, right?
you got 3 or 4 tweets out of me, and then we'll move on, right? But I think
we just hope. I don't know. My hope with this podcast and things like what Rami does, and just more education for consumers. I don't think it's a hard word to say, but I don't think more transparency. Like, I don't think if we gave full access to the press in year one of making game X, that would be beneficial for everybody. I think it would actually hurt things and create bigger expectations with higher letdowns.
It would create a lot of weirdness. I did retweet the story about Rami, just streaming his stuff. I think for small projects, it's a little different.
Yep.
And if you were to stream something like that as an indie title,
and publicly traded companies are much different.
Yeah, you follow along from the very get-go. One of the guys I talk about all the time is a guy who goes by Wizard Fu. It's Wizard_Fu, like Kung Fu. Yep. He's been streaming a game he's been making called Songbringer, and it's right up my alley. It's exactly the kind of game I want to play. And the funny thing is, he does stream every day, but he only streams an hour to an hour and a half every day. But he spends the rest of that day coding the entire day. And he's said very clearly, like, I want to share this with people. I want people to see it. I want people to learn it, and maybe it'll take away some inspiration to say, like, if this one guy can do this, then maybe I can do it too, and get excited and create more developers out of it. But he said, like, if I were to show you the other 8 hours of the day that I code, I would not get enough work done because my velocity would be distracted. I wouldn't be able to do what I need to do. But also, you would see things that are like an early ideation that just never ship, and then you'd be like, "Where'd that thing go?" Because you missed 4 days in a row of streams.
No, it's also things like I place very high value in giving somebody an experience. Yep. Where it's like, please go play this fresh.
Yes.
And if you've been watching the development of a game for 3 years or 2 years. I think you lose. There's a big part of magic that happens. It goes away. Like, would you want to watch a film being filmed.
No, I always hate when that shit shows
Like,
up, right?
what?
Here's a shot of like the Joker driving down through Toronto
It's like, wow,
in
you
like
just
the
ruined
purple
an
Lamborghini. Like, I
awesome
didn't want to see
moment
that. Yeah, I didn't want to see
that
that.
would have blown me away live. And I think music's a lot like that too.
Yeah.
It's just like there's, I don't know how to say it, but there's a certain sense of magic that you just want people to
I agree.
experience.
I remember actually the first time I went into the dude's chat, it was about almost a year ago to the day now. I started watching him when I was on my sabbatical as we were finishing up Dragons and Donuts and a lot of the live service for DAI. And I took 6 weeks off at that time, not dissimilar from, I guess, the 5 weeks right now. And I went into his stream and I was just blown away by like the fact that he was doing it. Yeah. But then I said, dude, can you promise me one thing? And I knew he couldn't promise me, but I said, like, are you going, if I buy this game, is there going to be any surprise left? Am I going to be spoiled on everything? He's like, no, I've held back a lot of mechanics, a lot of boss fights and stuff that you'll never see on the stream because I want you to experience it for yourself. And I was like, good, then he gets it, right? Like, that's the thing, right?
It's writing songs, right? A song requires, or becoming a professional, I guess, at anything. A song is 2 seconds of inspiration. And you're just like, oh, this chord progression is amazing, or this lyric is, I got something here. And then it is 3 weeks of 8 hours a day trying to turn that into something that's 3 minutes 50 seconds long that sounds good the whole way through, that flows between the verses and the choruses, that still has that moment of inspiration to carry it through, right? Like it's but you wouldn't want to watch 3 weeks of rehearsal. You want to be there for the moment of inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm going to break a bit of a fourth wall and spoil something for everybody right here. I know we always say no spoilers, but if you ever watch like the making of videos in a game, you get like the
first tell people what you might be spoiling.
Oh, like how making of videos are made.
Oh, that's not a spoiler.
No, like trust me, watch this. So most people look at this and go, man, look at, they're showing the concept, they're showing this, the dev diary of like how it's made. If you guys want, I'll give you 3 seconds here. Like tune out or turn down your audio, and then I'll make another. I'll go like this, and then you can come back in. Okay. So right now, get out, and I'll make that gesture again in a few seconds. So,
I have no idea what you're doing here, and I do not support this at
all.
Cover my base, whatever the hell you're gonna say.
No. So when you see these making of videos, whether it's a Mass Effect title, a Dragon Age title, any title around the world, you buy Halo 5 and it's got like a documentary of like, here's how we made the game, and you're like, man, they must have filmed these guys and like, look at their beard legs, they're gonna probably change throughout. No, it happens in like a day and a half.
In a day,
a day and a half maximum, because there's pre-pro shots and then like final recuts or final reshoots of the, oh, you know what, when we thought we got the concept there, it just like, you know,
or it's like that creature got cut.
Yeah.
We can't show that.
Yeah.
Superimpose something else on top.
So, Forged Pixels says, I don't think your listeners of the podcast will hear the gestures. So I said, don't do this. Like, stop listening now.
You're screwing this up so bad.
So now I'll be like, come back. It's safe now. And we'll figure out something. We'll figure out some way.
Yeah, here's like, if somebody followed me around with a camera, they'd see
put a beep.
50% of the time sitting at my desk in Excel spreadsheets or the tool we call Jira, 20% of the time in meeting rooms taking notes, 20% of the time talking with other devs about, hey, so what do you think of that thing? Yeah. Oh, so we should do that thing? Okay, I'll go let everybody know we're doing that thing. Like the day-to-day is, it's like what we just said like 1,000 times. It's the work. There's work. No, you don't go to, no matter how awesome your job is, you go to a NASA, astronaut. What do you think an astronaut does for like 12 hours on the day they're not in that swimming pool with that awesome suit? Reading so many technical manuals.
Yeah. Books this big.
Learning Russian.
Yeah.
Because half of the stuff on ISS is in Russian, and it's just what the fuck?
They're doing sit-ups and push-ups and eating vitamin
pills. That's why I get so awkward when I give tours, when somebody's like, oh, can I my boyfriend's a huge fan or whatever, can he come in and check it out? I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like my sister's boyfriend or whatever. Yeah. And I'm just like, there's a desk, and
that's an artist and that's a writer.
That's an artist and that's a writer, and they do not want to talk to us right now. They're gonna go down the hall.
And we'll continue on the hall and point to other people. Yeah. So
anyways. But I think we're way over time.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home.
I think so.
Cool.
So are you gonna maybe stream tonight?
It's way too late now.
Yeah. I think so too.
But I really want to thank everybody for stopping by. This was
Yes.
a heated, passionate debate where I told people to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I hope if you are one of those people, you do.
And with that, we got it.
So yeah, thanks. We'll be back next week with another Producer Hacks, a Gamedev podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, remember, going forward, we'll do 9 p.m.
Mondays.
Mountain Daylight Time right now on Monday nights.
Mountain Dew time.
Mountain Dew time. Mountain Dew, baby.
Mountain Dew, baby.
And then, as we get into non-daylight savings time, we'll switch it to probably 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll figure out.
They should get rid of daylight. We should do
yeah.
a podcast on daylight savings.
Yes, we should. And how much it fucks
Bullshit.
things like trying to set up live events on weekends.
It's just
Ask Jeff about that in chat.
Oh yeah,
folks.
Jeff hates daylight savings.
Jeff hates daylight savings because GMT does not follow daylight savings. It's just awesome. So
bananas.
when
Anyways.
you're GMT -7, then all of a sudden you're GMT -7
Okay,
or
just
8.
stop.
Terrible.
Just stop. It's bringing back nightmares.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks everybody, and people in the chat. We will be back in about 2 seconds here. But for everybody in the podcast, have a great afternoon, evening, good night. I don't know where you are or what you're doing, but see you later.
Yep. Peace out.